Hello everybody and welcome back to the snooker action. It is day 2 of the quarterfinals, and after some emphatic battles of John Higgins, Xiao, we are going to have Yize against Xiao here today. So the battle of the two players from China, two great friends, but they're not going to be friends today. It is all about which one of the people that have managed to make it for the first time into the Masters is going to be marching on into the semi-final spot for the first time since... well, the only player that has actually managed to do it in the Masters history, Dave Gilbert. So one of the players from China will be able to replicate that and face either Karen Wilson or Neil Robertson in the semi-final. But which one of them, we're about to find out, as the players going to be walking their way onto the arena. Just to decide how much of good friendship there is in between the two players. Xiao Guodong, I think, was making late dinner last night for Yize. Certainly a lot of comments about food poisoning, so we hope that Yize is going to be sharp as ever, because that's what he has to do. Xiao Guodong had an incredible win over Mark Selby, and Yize himself wasn't struggling for form, defeating the reigning Masters and the UK champion, of course, in Mark Selby and Shaun Murphy, by identical scoreline, which still seems to be haunting us ever since that first round, and the only match of Xiao against John Higgins, with it going the distance, was pretty much 1 out of 9 so far that didn't finish, with it just taking 8 frames at the time. And you're doing the match tonight? Yes, so after doing a bit of a missing of all the action Higgins against Xiao, we're going to be doing all the 6 remaining matches. So 2 quarterfinals to go, then 2 semi-finals tomorrow, and then we're going to have 2 sessions of the final. So loads of action to come. I think, as I say, it's going to be very difficult to go over the top of, John Higgins against Xiao. Wizard of Wishaw coming back from being 5-3 down, having some incredible flukes along the way. And in the end, he's going to be the player to be up against the world number 1. And you can see both players giving a bit to the camera, certainly enjoying themselves. And as I say, for the first appearance in the Masters for either one of the two, it is going to be a great, afternoon for both of them. And of course, even better for whoever manages to come out on top, as both of them give it up to the handshake of the MC, the announcer, Rob Walker. Here's going to be another Rob, which is going to be the referee there of the match, Rob Spencer. And looking forward to this one, as I say. I just want a match to be played in attacking fashion. And already have got one incredible semi-final between ourselves of John Higgins against Watchalong. Could we see maybe someone like Yize against, either or. Yize or Xiao Guodong up against either Karen Wilson or Neil Robertson will be a great entertainer to watch. But for now, it is Xiao Guodong to get us underway. And we'll try and get going here, really. As it's a nice break off there by Xiao. And he's able to get the cue ball passed onto the right side rail. And diagonally lined up in behind the green. So had a couple of reds to go closer to the right corner. But I think they're going to be pretty much in the way of each other. So that shouldn't be disturbing Yize too much. As Xiao Guodong goes back to his seat. Hello everyone, and yes, hello everyone in chat, and hope you're enjoying this one, because as I say, the battle of Mark Allen against Watchalong was entertaining yesterday, but pretty much nothing could live up to the expectation of John Higgins against Xiao yesterday. But that's the start that you want to see. It's a brilliant long shot there by Yize, and what a fire red that was into the left corner, despite the break-off shot by Xiao Guodong being quite a decent one. In the end, he was able to find a way through and land the first punch there of the day. And straight away, I mean, from sublime to ridiculous it goes, missing the black off the spot like that, despite being so straight on it. It is going to be very difficult indeed. And, Xiao Guodong trying to get himself lined up for this red to be taken now. After the opening chance, comes and goes there for Yize. I didn't really see any of those mistakes to creep in against Shaun Murphy. Now we get a chance to witness a response there from Xiao, and he certainly will perform that. When you beat Mark Selby, and you lead him throughout the majority of the match by 3 or more frames to your advantage, you better make sure that you turn up in the next round and try and play a similar sort of game as well. So for now, just having a look there to see if the red that he's tried to play on for the left corner doesn't look to be available for himself. So has to try the red into the left middle instead. play the cue ball through the shot with a bit of topspin and just make sure you get the red straight into the heart of the pocket, because that's how you're going to be lined up perfectly on the blue. Because, of course, that's the approach that the players are taking on. Whenever you see them run themselves out of position, or, the positional play seems to be taking a hit on that particular shot, it always seems to be because of the reason of them not making the pot clearly into the center of the pocket. That way, the cue ball is going to wobble to one side or another. That looks to be the thing that has happened here to Xiao Guodong, so has to try and recover, and he wasn't able to do so, so misses the blue somehow into the left middle. He ran himself slightly with too much of an angle to work with, but still wasn't anywhere near as close to it being a sort of reasonable mistake to make. And then now we had one mistake for one of the players, the blue and the black. And once again, it's a perfect position now in front of Yize after the previous split of the bunch. Of course, not having the blue for the first shot, it's going to compromise Yize slightly as he gets himself in and around the bowl colours. So, as I say, if the blue was on this spot for this shot, it would have made the life of Yize a lot sweeter and a lot simpler there for the next couple of shots. And he's unable to do so for now. So just having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for the red into the right corner instead. Get himself lined up for the black. And try and ensure he's going to be making all the easy work of the position that he's got ahead of himself. So for now, just have to try and make sure we're not going to see any more of those simple mistakes there. One worse than the other, really, because as much as you think that black was easy to be taken into the right corner, you could probably make the same point about blue being taken into the left middle. Whereas on both of those occasions weren't taken. And you can see that they made a Triple Crown event quarterfinal appearances today. Of course, slightly easier to do at the Masters, with all the respect to the crown here at the Alexandra Palace, because it's only the first round which you have to go through. But nevertheless, you are going to be faced off against the top 16 players, including yourself. So it's always going to be a bit of a challenge there. And both of the players certainly deserve it on their debut, beating Sean Murphy and Mark Selby, as I say, the defending UK and the Masters Championship. And we already had the World Champion knocked out as well of Xiao. So it looks like we're certainly going to have the new winner of the Triple Crown event in comparison to the last three that we've had last season. And this season, of course, as well, with Watchalong being displaced of his crown at the UK Championship by Mark Selby. And you can see once again there the replay of the beautiful shot on the cue ball from Xiao Guodong, but just wasn't able to concentrate on the pot enough to ensure that the blue was going to drop into the left middle. That looks to have given all the initiative away back to his compatriot from China. And so 13 points advantage now, as we see, 91 points still at the table. And does the black pot into the right corner? I think it will now, because Yize clearly wasn't too obsessed about it, and he's got himself lined up for this red, quite close to being hampered by the black, and also has to make sure he's going to be bridging over a couple of reds. So the black wasn't possible into the right corner, but he sure will be now. 21 points advantage, black being available into both of those pockets, and also having the blue and the pink to potentially make his way through. It's going to be great advantage here, as I say, in the opening frame to Yize, and for the consistency that the players have shown, you have to say that it's very surprising to see so early mistakes there from both of them, but in the end, it was always going to be one chance too many to give away there, as Yize stepped back to the table after that mistake from Xiao Guodong, and in the end, it's always going to be the benefit of, having the first chance of the frame, because if you make a mistake and your opponent responds with making another one himself, you're always going to be the one to return to the table first, and then you never know, you get your second chance, and it's all about just making sure your opponent is not going to get a second chance here. I think Yize naturally is going to be going into this match as a slight favourite for the reason of him playing so well at the recent couple of tournaments. Because, well, neither of the players really performed too well at the UK Championship. I think Yize has done all right, Xiao slightly less so, and in the end it was just all about the Wuhan Open and the China International Championship, which have seen them winning those matches before. As now Yize just rolls the black into the right corner, which for a second there I thought that he's massively underred into the left corner, but should be able to reach through and see enough of this cut to try and drop it into the left corner. And then, as I say, we'll have a wide colour selection of pink, blue and black all being right next to each other. And I think he has to concentrate in terms of getting two expensive colours right now, making sure that he's going to be more than 51 points clear, with 3 of those reds being on the side cushion. Now 45 points is the advantage, so he's going to go onto that zone now with 51 after the pink. So the next shot on the red, which of course sees the pink to go on the blue spot, and just asking to clean the white there with the referee. So I think if he manages to get himself onto a red plus blue combination, he should leave Xiao needing 2 snookers and a very quick resumption there to the opening frame. Say Bailey, something like 10 minutes since the start of it, and we already seems to have someone getting so close on to winning the opening frame here. Getting himself off to a great start. Something that Mark Selby wasn't able to do against Xiao is to win any one of the opening 3 frames away. And now the blue is going to be taken to ensure that 2 snookers are going to be needed there. With 52 of a difference right now. It's going to be taken to 57. And of course still has an opportunity to try and line in behind one of those reds to take them into the middle. And he certainly managed to do so. 57 points ahead there for Yize. So remaining only 51. So if he takes the red into the middle, certainly he's going to be game over there in the opening encounter for Xiao. And that's the perfect start there really, because you want to see the match being played in such a dynamic fashion. And Yize to win the opening frame. It's only going to add to that because he forces Xiao to try and be on the front foot a little bit more. And that's going to potentially play into the hands of Yize as well as the match goes on. For now then, he'll have a break of 71 points to add up to the early red that he managed to take into the left corner with a brilliant long shot, compromising himself slightly. Well, I say slightly, could have compromised himself massively after missing the black off the spot into the right corner. Very similar to the one that he's playing on for right now. But, the grade of that shot being missed. So I probably wouldn't say that we're going to see another miss like that in the entire match here. Certainly from Yize's point of view, as the lightning doesn't seem to strike twice. Especially when it comes to the quarterfinal of the Masters event like this. But now he's tried to drag on this break for as long as possible, but in the end it just seems to be 1 red too many, so has to go for a double. Oh, I mean, I thought it was 1 red too many, but not if you've got shots like that in your pocket. That was brilliant there from Yize. And he takes that into the right corner, one of the more difficult doubles for you to actually perform there. Especially with the way the cloth is going to be fading to the other part of the table. He certainly managed to take all the pace on that shot, which means that the effect of the cloth was going to be minimal on it. Of course, in comparison to the middle pockets, you haven't got as much of the pocket to aim at. And sometimes when you wobble in the jaws, you can try and drop in. Very few of those shots drop in into the corner pockets, but that one didn't need any of those jaws. And from probably around 60 points of a break maximum, we're now going to head to 87, with still a chance for a possible 112 here, which is going to be very close there to the highest break of the tournament there of Xiao. Because Yize has managed to take it a couple of steps further and make a break of 137 points against John Murphy. And the best that Xiao was able to produce was the break of 118 in the opening round against Mark Selby, and that's certainly going to be the way to get the first frame on the way. Now the 99 points of a break, so needs the pink, and once again, beautiful cue ball control. I mean, sometimes players can be distracted by the fact of the blue and the pink switching spots there, but certainly wasn't the case there for Yize. It's a wonderful break, one of the best that we've seen in the Masters so far. Has to go alongside one of those breaks of Watchalong, maybe even Kyle Wilson. And certainly that break in the second frame against Sean Murphy or Yize himself. Now then, he's going to make it a wrap in the opening frame. And in no time at all, he's got a handicap. Is Xiao, and Yize now is off to a flying start. And now leads his compatriot by 1 frame to 0. And of course, he's not going to be the top seed, but that could be changed very, very quickly, especially for the trajectory on the up that he's been going through. Landing himself in the English Open and the Scottish Open final last season. He was able to make it 1 out of 1 this season so far, and defeating John Higgins with a very dominant win there. Just an incredible performance at the China International Championship. You know, you can try and give a lot of credit for Xiao Guodong for his performance at the Wuhan Open earlier this season, but you have to say the campaign of Wu has been a lot more sort of difficult for him to manage his way through, and that makes it a lot more impressive. But you have to give the hat off to Xiao Guodong as well. After being 20 years in the game, he's able to finally break through to the top 16, and of course still comes into this match as the player that is going to be higher on the world ranking tour, whether he comes to the 1-year list or the total 2-year list, going back to the Masters of 2023, of course. If you are to, well, 2024, I should say, you are to do the counts based on that. Another 6-2 coming. Well, we had, what is it now? 9 out of 10. And when he wasn't 6-2, it was a brilliant match of John Higgins against Xiao. Xiao just unable to get over the line. Something that I didn't actually expect to witness there, because it's a bit of a contrast of feelings, because you've got John Higgins, the ultimate comeback king. You know, you can be leading 5-1, 5-0, and you can still come back and win the match in a decider on the black. He always seems to do it right at the end there, and had to use the black for that clearance after a mistake there from the Cyclone. And still was able to just get over the line there, clear champion and the winner mentality. And something that Yize certainly will be trying to develop in himself. Not going to say that he's been struggling for that, but it probably might be the only subjective part of the game that is missing, because apart from that, as I say, maybe slightly more mature that he needs to try and become in the upcoming years when it comes to him not playing well, and some still trying to force the shots that, you know, some of the top professionals have to try and perform at the top of their game. But in the end, as I say, all of that has to be subjective. The pure game of the safety is far from being bad. The break building, the cue ball control, the pot success, the long shots just seems to be taking out one of the best players in terms of those stats and those aspects of the game. And as I say, blink and you'll miss it. The opening frame is gone, and we haven't seen 3 shots in a row there from Xiao Guodong. As I say, maybe that's just going to have a negative impact on him, or a positive, as I say. Let's see if we're going to try and go for the shredding to the right corner. He did. Now then, as he wobbles, he's going to jump out, go to the left side cushion, back to the right, and back to the left again. He's left it over the pocket, but I think the blue is going to do the blocking there for Xiao Guodong. And he's going to be able to get away with that one. Of course, not going to get away with the red being available onto the opposite part of the table. But there's a couple of aspects to that shot. Because if you take this red, you have to do a lot of maintenance work on the cue ball in terms of trying to land it for the pink and the blue. But he does seem to have a very close look at the black there to ensure that, well, he might actually pot there, you know, from the right to the left corner. If you land the cue ball to bounce away off the black ball cushion, or just try and hold it without touching the cushion at all, he's going to be able to get the cue ball lined up for this black to be taken. It's a beautiful shot there once again there from Yize, because as simple as it might have looked, it wasn't easy to hold the cue ball in the perfect manner, and all you have to do is play the black into the front jaw, and he hasn't done that. Wow! It's twice in the opening 2 frames that we've seen an opening red be quite an impressive one there from Yize, and twice he's gone on to miss the black after it. In the opening frame, that was the only mistake that he's made, and well, Xiao Guodong certainly will be very relieved to getting back in with a chance to try and have at least a couple of more shots with his cue. So he's got this red potentially available to the green pocket. It's probably going to be it there in terms of the attacking options. But as I say, being 1 frame down just maybe takes the edge over him, and has to try and force him to go for this red. I'm not sure if he can try and take it into the middle, because that's going to put some safety on it, and also make the shot slightly more difficult for him as well. And he's gone for the shot into the middle, and just about catches the jaw there as the round bounces away. And Xiao Guodong has to bounce back to his chair. So a couple of reds once again available here to Yize. So far, the only long shot that he had to take on, he's managed to take on and make the most out of it in the opening frame in terms of getting the pot on. As I say, managed to get the position on the black as well, but it didn't really work out on that particular effort. Now then, is he going to make it 2 out of 2? He will. And how's the cue ball? The cue ball is going to be holding on absolutely perfectly off the side cushion and just about far enough for this black to be possible. Yize is going to be very much a dark horse for this Masters crown. If he is going to try and maintain the level of snooker that he's been playing so far, it's an absolute joy to watch. And we could actually see another one of those stories of, Xiao winning the UK Championship straight at the start of his career. Because a couple of years back, and then after his return to snooker and the professional tour, coming back to win the crown as well of the World Championship. Yize has managed to do a similar sort of thing there. It took him a while to get to that stage of the tournament, to the business end of the tournament, as I say, in that Home Nation Series last season, but he was able to take it a step further and already win one of the biggest championships in this season so far. Certainly when it comes to the prize money, I think it's going to be a third place bronze to the likes of UK Championship and to the Saudi Arabian Masters coming so early on. And this time around, he's able to put a black. So that's certainly going to be a mental block out of the way. But although he has landed with the cue ball slightly being too close to the side cushion as he goes for the shred, and he misses it again there. So, all the compliments that you can be giving to Yize, and he certainly deserved those for the opening match and the opening frame. He does seem to be unraveling slightly now in the frame number 2. We got High Letitia. And it's slight cue ball control needed there for Xiao Guodong. And, well, that's certainly going to go to plan. Cue ball is going to bounce away from the reds and technically still on the brown. He can try and afford to just roll the brown in without focusing on the positional play completely. And that way, just hold the cue ball enough for one of those reds to the right corner part of the table. But not going to say that's going to be the perfect case scenario either, because it's so difficult those shots into the middle, especially with some of the considerable distance of the cue ball being so far from the brown. And, there's not really going to be a lot of point in playing the safety shot either in behind one of the ball colours because of such a large area of those reds being available. And Xiao Guodong desperately needs this brown to go in, and he won't. Well, that's clearly not gone to plan there in the opening couple of frames, and with all the mistakes that we've seen in frame number 2 there from Yize, he's still going to be the player that comes back to the table. And you can see, last 16, he's had 9 misses in 145 shots. When it comes to the pot success, he already had 4 in the opening 8 shots that he's played, so 50% for now, and it's a horrible stat for him to be involved with. The slight advantage, or the slight positive, I would say, for him has to be the fact of he's not really giving a lot of position away to Yize, but because it's a bit of a mixed up positive, this black seems to be very close to the red as Yize takes it on. Still wait to find a gap there to try and guide it onto the left corner, and of course the black is going to be hampered by the red, so has to try and go on the brown spot after Xiao Guodong missing the brown previously. So once again, Yize seeming to be in charge here. Trying to go for this red into the right corner. Had to play the shot with a lot of backspin, to be fair. Try and get himself lined up with, well, slightly on the top part of the pink, which was something that he wasn't able to do. He's going to be getting the cue ball to go into the bunch of reds here from top to bottom. It's going to compromise the exit on the reds here, because the 2 that he's playing for, one of them is going to be exactly on the black spot, and the other one is going to be closer to the left-hand side line. So he goes for the option of just trying to make his way through those reds, and I don't think it's worked out badly at all. I think he's got a red that he can take on into the right middle. And as I say, the thing about Yize, sometimes you give him a chance and you waste it, and sometimes you give him a chance, you come back to your table, you come back to your chair, you take a little bit of a sip of a glass of water, and all of a sudden, bang, the frame is over. You have to go home and go back to the third one. Of course, if that's going to be the case on 6 of those occasions, it is going to be a very short-lived quarter-final appearance here at the Masters for Xiao Guodong, but we have seen some Very late twists and turns there. But he still seems to be going very well indeed there for Yize, especially when it comes to the scoreline. Another champion mentality is to be winning when you're not playing well. And if he manages to get 40 more points on the board, with taking all those reds through the pink, as I say, with the black being out of position, and the way to the blue to be taken seems to be quite far away from the cue ball. So I think he's going to try and leave the cue ball to be in and around the pink, nudging a couple of reds out of the way, as he's done right now. And once again, just playing the pink into the middle pockets for the time being. But I think that's going to be very much a temporary thing to do there. And he's going to try and clear and make 4 pockets available there for the pink, despite the reds on the left corner. And the right part of the table still being there to be played. And, well, if he takes those 2 out, the pink, as I say, is going to be possible into the 4 of the main pockets, but also he's going to have a very nice effect on terms of the way that he has to play those shots with the pink and just give himself ability to try and play those shots on the blue, which is exactly what he's done. So, of course, facing that shot into the left corner with the red, getting slightly out of position on it, so has to make sure he uses the backspin on the cue ball to try and find it onto the top part of the table, still comfortably on top of the blue, and just gets the cue ball to go down the table once again, and I think he'll try and take the red out of the right corner pocket right now. So ensure that, as I say, indeed, the pink is going to be possible into 4 of the main pockets, and get himself back in the rhythm of having the century in the opening frame. And despite, I think it was 2 mistakes that he's made right at the start of this frame, he's still on for a good chance here of making another pretty much single visit to the table in which he's going to score 90 or more % of his points. So far doing that with 36 on the current break, and getting his points advantage now over to 50 points as he gets another pink in. So edging out onto that 50+ break, and ultimately that 2-0 lead being very much at stake there. So you certainly feel like it is going to be another mistake, which will punish Yize massively, and he nearly made one there, getting that red to wobble in the jaws for quite some time. And nearly a second it's done there. Sometimes he's just going to stay out and bounce away from the pocket, but not on that occasion. And he's able to put that little jump scare behind him and just try and make his way through. A couple of remaining reds. He's got 1 more red plus colour combination, which he needs, which at this stage is going to be very much anticipated with the pink. He tries to take the red onto the left part of the table. I think if he manages to bounce the cue ball away off the left side cushion, should be fine to be just about straight there on the pink. It's going to be fine for him at this stage because he always can just go for a little backspin of the shot and get himself lined up for that red into the right corner to be taken. As he takes the pink as well, so now it is going to be all over there for Xiao, and he knows it. You can see the little wobble in the chair. And so far, we've seen, what was it, 2 mistakes, and both of them punished. One in the opening frame, and one in the second frame too. Right now, Yize seems to be on a roll for potentially making back-to-back centuries. We've seen an attempt for that in the match against Sean Murphy, but in the end wasn't quite able to do so. Positional success so far in the match, 96%, which takes it into a very comfy lead there of still having the break of his opponent. Only reached the value of 9 points at his best. And just trying to make sure he's going to be able to try and dictate the run of play as he's done against Sean yesterday. Not yesterday, at the first round I meant. Because that was far from yesterday. That was played on Sunday with the opening match of the tournament. So never really understood why they decided to make such a big gap in between the quarterfinals and the first round. Because, as I say, he was playing Sean Murphy as the first match from the tournament. And yeah, he's going to be playing on the day after the likes of John Higgins, Xiao, Jock Trump and Mark Allen have played, which all have started their campaign a lot later than Yize himself. But he's going to be all about just the technical point of view there. As another red is about to disappear. And he's got a chance now to try and get the cue ball for the top part of the table. Once again, I'm going to have the brown slightly in the way, so he needs to be mindful of that, as he's on a break of 78 points. Looking to make that 84 right now. And yeah, you can see slightly unhappy with the way that he's played for the yellow, so underrun. And has to try and recover from this one. Still has to drop the yellow in such a way that the cue ball is going to get past the brown on the way back up down the table. And is he going to be able to do so? It seems like it. And perfect line once again, so position restored. And well, certainly position dominated in a couple of moments' time. I'm anticipating that will become the top-ranked Chinese player very soon. Well, he's got great competition there, as I say. We're still yet to find the form of Xiao back. Ever since that crucible loss to Luca Brissell. He's been a consistent top 16 player ever since, but just unable to have those incredible sparks there. And having the likes of Li Peifan, Yize, and Zhang Anda, all win tournaments of the ranking events before him. And well, I mean, that's not how you finish a century break though, and it's a break of 93 points, which is going to be the end of Yize, so not quite back-to-back centuries. Of course, Xiao Guodong probably has this one as the only positive of the two opening frames. And as I say, he was giving up a very difficult position there for Yize to try and make his way through. But on both of those occasions, the man from China and the lower ranking seed, of course, coming into the tournament, was able to do so. And now leads Xiao Guodong now by 2 frames to 0. And it's a very complicated position there for Xiao Guodong to try and find himself in, because as much as he's a consistent player, it doesn't really strike me as a player that is able to come back from being 2-0, 3-0 down. And Murphy wasn't able to do, well, anything like it in his match against Yize in the first round. When he was a 3-0 lead, he was able to get it down to 3-2. And in the end, Yize was able to go on a run himself and win 3 frames in the bounce. And yeah, that's a possibility. Well, I don't think that you have to be slightly like that, because it's really easy to say that, oh, he's playing really well, he's just won 2 dominating matches when his opponent's not really playing well, and all of a sudden he's going to be the world #1 by the time you reach next week. But he had a good start to the season in terms of the way that he's managed to land that first ranking event, and he's done it in style. He's been quiet in the UK Championship. Now he's had a brilliant first round against Sean Murphy. Let's see when he gets to the business end of the tournament. Sometimes the first ranking event was very much special. I'm not going to say that he didn't have to go through tougher position players. He did. But I still have to have a very weird feeling that Watchalong should have won that match when he was leading 4-0 against Yize. And of course, if he wasn't able to pump that incredible performance of pretty much 6 50-plus breaks on the bounce and win it in style and take it to the quarterfinal stage, which he was able to make, until eventually becoming the winner of the International Championship. Still think he's got a lot to play for until he reaches the top part of the game, achieved by Xiao, because remember, he's got 500,000 points that is going to be there with him for 2 years. So Xiao has managed to win the Ria Championship as well, which has always been all about the prize money for the players and trying to land that $1 million of a 167 break. Nobody was able to get too close to it in the end, with Mark Cullen and I think it was Neil Robertson having 2 decent efforts. Nothing really apart from that. So now we just wait for Yize to try and come back onto the table. But he certainly deserves himself a bit of waiting time, because Xiao Guodong won't really find that position in his chair unfamiliar in comparison to what we've seen in the opening 2 frames. He needs to come back in this match, and he needs to do it now. Otherwise, he's going to be absolutely copying the blueprint of Sean Murphy. It's the blueprint of pretty much any one of the players could have achieved, losing 3 frames on the bounce. I don't think I could have done any worse than that, but because circumstances matter, he had 2 errors. The first one on the blue was probably the worst one, because of, when you take such a difficult shot on the red, you're always likely to leave something out with Yize, and in that end, he was able to take the opportunity from the second time once again in both of those frames. Right now, let's see if he's going to be able to make it 3 out of 3 there. But as I say, 2 previous frame wins coming from a mistake from his opponents, so that's certainly something to improve on. And the mentality has to be try and come into this third frame without conceding any of those early and easy chances away to the opposition. And then you're going to have at least a chance there to get back in the shouts for the contention of the semi-final spot. Is there somebody to explain why Master is not a ranking event? Well, Letitia, I think from the technical point of view, what a ranking event basically is that you should have all the players trying to participate in it, which is why, you know, they've sort of rebranded the Saudi Arabia. By the way, special shout out to Xiao Guodong there. I mean, that's certainly the way for him to start the third frame. A brilliant shot there, getting the cue ball behind the green. Very similar to the opening frame start of Judd Trump against Mark Allen. And Trump was able, well, still lost that frame, but to be fair, he was able to win the match comfortably. Now, Xiao Guodong is still on for a shout there for that brilliant 6-2 win, but of course it will take him to sort of make Yize taste his own medicine and lose 6 frames on the bounce. He's done it before, remember, but it's never happened to him. But yeah, finishing on the Masters as Yize finds his way out of that position and doesn't really give anything away to Xiao Guodong, so would expect a safety battle to unfold. I think the reason why it's not going to be classified as a rank event is because it's very much top 16 players. And one thing I need to check actually, you know the Tour Championship that they've got right at the end of the season, do you get ranking points for that one? Because I get the WSD player will say that, well, technically you can get into that tournament by being the top 16 player of the season, which is how the rankings are based for that particular event. But it will probably be a bit of a hit towards the Masters sort of argument because only top 16 players get in the Tour Championship as well, and yet, as far as I can understand, it is going to be very much one of those ranking events too. So I think the point of the Masters being made is that you can't have the world number 64 to be in the Masters, which is all about the ranking event there, which is why Saudi Arabia had to change the format of the tournament and add a couple of qualifying rounds to make sure that the players outside, a couple of wildcards, outside the tour, a couple of wildcards are able to get themselves in with a chance there to try and face the top 16 players when it comes to the business end of the tournament. And for now, Yize is off to a great start now. So he has got a bit of a twisted shot right now because he's managed to take a third long shot on the bounce and he's on the black here and he's able to take it. So it's not going to be 3 out of 3. Easy blacksmith off the spot and gets himself in with a shout once again. I mean, Xiao Guodong, I don't know what on earth you've been feeling because he starts off a brilliant break-off like that. Then, you know, your opponent manages to find a way out of facing a snooker situation. And yet he's the one getting the first shout of taking that red in. And as I say, as long as the red didn't stay over the pocket, it wasn't leaving anything to Xiao anyway. And, well, right now he's got a great chance to try and have some of those points to go in his tally. And yeah, so that's one way of understanding, but as I say, it's not confirmed. It's slightly controversial and slightly weird that you've got a triple crown event, which doesn't actually count as that, and doesn't actually go for any of those ranking points, but I suppose that's one of the things for WSD and WPBSA to try and answer. For now, it's a very important shot for Yize to try and make his way through, because as much as he's been the dominant player, he doesn't really want to give initiative away here to Xiao Guodong. And, you know, when your opponent misses 2 of those easy shots, the next shot that he plays, he's always more likely to actually make it. And that's kickstart to the quarterfinal campaign of his. But for now, the black is going to be taken nicely there by Wolf, slightly out of position again. I think he was playing to being behind for one of those reds, to be taken into the middle. Instead, he has to try and roll the cue ball for the red to be taken along the side cushion. Nicely holds the cue ball for the pink, so they really want to have that temptation to be playing for 147 at an early stage. And just getting himself on the all reds and blacks combinations. Clearly focusing on trying to be in the semi-final first and foremost, and doing a very good job of that so far. Table time 17% and 83% respectfully for the players. Probably doesn't actually tell the whole picture, because I think the points tally will tell the picture, and it's something like 250 to 10, 15. How many points does Xiao Guodong scored? None in this frame. I think he scored 1 in the opening frame, and then I think he managed to score about 9 there. So, being so close to 2 century breaks, now a break of 31 points as well. There's going to be a great chance here for Yize to try and make it. Something like 300 points. Not without answer, but to around 10 points of response there from Xiao Guodong's point of view. Indeed, there's other championship with only top players. This is why it's strange about Triple Crown. Yeah, this is what I mean there, because the more you think about it, you've got the likes of Champion of Champions not being considered a ranking event, but it still gets the top players in there. And the Champion of Champions doesn't have the Triple Crown status, so slightly weird, but I suppose it's just one of those things which you can always have the two sides of a story. And it's just all about how long is a piece of string there. Never quite know the answer. As once again, back for the black it goes after taking the pink on one of those occasions, but it's not a good shot that he's played there. And Yize needs to be hoping for a bit of luck here. Tournament pack splits, it says so far only 33%, which I actually think it's incredible because I think he had an absolute domination of a work against Sean Murphy, so probably didn't have to do that so many times because I think he was able to pick out all the loose reds in the time that he needed to. And right now, has got a very difficult cut of the red to be taken into the right corner, but as you would expect from this performance, he manages to take it without touching the jaws, as long as he's not going to be straight on the bulk line, which he won't, but he's gone over it, so not quite over the line in terms of getting himself back to the basics. It's a nasty shot to play, to be fair, because you've got to play this yellow and absolutely hammer it into the right middle with a lot of backspin on the cue ball, try and hold it off the ball cushion and try and get it closer to the blue line, having one of those reds pretty much alongside the blue here. And he goes for another approach. That's not going to be too much easy either for him because he sort of goes for putting a bit of distance in between the cue ball and the red, and I don't think he's played a good shot there. It's going to be very close to not seeing the red at all. Yeah, I don't really understand why he's gone for that, because I understand that you don't want to give an easy chance away to Xiao Guodong there if he used to miss the yellow whilst playing with full power, but that's why you're in this game, to take a risk. It's a very weird short selection there from Yize, because even if he could get through to that red, which he can't, too little of a margin I should say, in terms of getting past the green, then it still would be a mighty shot for him to take on into the left middle. For now, it's a red that he seems to go for with a long shot, and Xiao Guodong be hoping that he's finally going to be coming back to the table, and he will be now. It's one long shot too many there to take on, and I think that's going to be the first one that he's missed there of Yize this day so far, and that's the first, well, it's probably the second or third, to be fair, a real chance of Xiao Guodong to get himself back in this match. So certainly the first one of frame number 3, last spot time being 70 minutes ago. Doesn't actually seem like it's been so long ago, but of course that just shows how quickly Yize was able to turn that 5-point advantage or so into a 100-point advantage in the second frame, and still have a break of 42 points in the third frame too. Xiao Guodong is up and underway. Doesn't seem to play a good shot though. Doesn't want to be straight on the pink, and wants to try and make some of those reds to be away from each other. Has he played a good enough shot here? And, well, I think he's going to be right in the mix of the reds. And you can see there's no replay needed. He knows that he made the mess of that completely. And, well, he's going to be compromising himself here. Just having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for the red into the right corner. Well, that's going to be out of the picture now. He's getting the points there because, yeah, he should be like that. There you go. Sorry, apologies for that. Wasn't looking at the scoreboard. And Mysterious of Snooker, yes, vastly improved from last year. Nice looking head into. Yes, I'll be honest with you, as much as there was a lot of talk about the mullet, I didn't really like it one bit. I just don't think it suits him, but just say it's not like I'm the stylist expert for him. I think the new haircut style is a lot more natural to him, looks better, and well, maybe that's going to have another positive impact on his game. For now, we're going to have 7 points of a break here for Xiao Guodong, and well, he's got to make a decision there. Yize was going for shots like that at the end of his 42 points break in this third frame, but of course he was leading by 2 frames to nil. Xiao Guodong doesn't have that luxury, and still, I mean, he had 3 brilliant chances in one in each of those frames, and yet his highest break is going to be 9 points scored so far, in contrast to 93, 112, and 42 being scored by his opponent and compatriot from China. Now then, has he left another long shot? He's been putting those for fun so far there, Yize. And not on this occasion, so doesn't want to take it on, doesn't want to take any unnecessary risk. And it's an important shot there for him because he just puts a couple of those reds close to the side cushion. Just make sure when you've got that 35 points advantage to the opponent of yours, you're going to be able to try and hold on to it. Of course, Guodong is not going to be interested in that as he tries to play one of those reds into the open play straight away. The mullet, that's fine. Well, no, it's the one that he had before. So it's the one that he had at the International Championship, which actually sort of he's gone on to win. So you could say that certainly was the lucky hairstyle. I think he added the UK Championship as well because they didn't get too far. And yeah, he's just gone on to a more traditional way. I've got no idea if this one's got a name, but it seems to be sort of a lot more normal of a hairstyle to talk about it. And as I say, just for him to be such a tall man, just seems a lot more natural and a lot more slick on it. But as I say, probably not worth mentioning too much as we go back to just trying to exchange a couple of shots. So I think there's going to be a very much expected outcome with Guodong trying to get those reds to be separated away from each other. And Yize not being interesting in that one bit, trying to put as many of those reds onto the side cushion at the same time. Still has got 35 points advantage and 91 points available for grabs there for whatever, well, either one of the players really, but this will be needed for Guodong massively, and for Yize I think he's going to score around 30 points or so, and that will get him over the line. Once again, not a perfect shot there from Guodong, and Yize is able to go for a long shot here. Is he going to be able to make it? He will do. Brilliant shot with the cue ball once again, as he goes around the black and bounces away from that side cushion just about enough there. It should be all about the next couple of shots here, because if he manages to get this black into the right corner, it's still not a gimme. Still, the cue ball is going to be positioned slightly too close to the side cushion for it to be called an easy shot on the black, especially with the previous history of Yize missing two of the shots on the black easier than that. Not going to be the case here. And once again, the chance comes and goes there. Guodong so far had a chance of, well, to score a couple of points on each of those races. But you can see that's what I was talking about. 17 points scored for Guodong, 265 for Yize. And whilst I was looking at that, he's going to get 20% more of those points because that's going to be a foul shot. And 4 points given away there to Guodong. Unlucky there, to be fair, because he was cannoning the red. He played it into the middle and cannoned the cue ball into another red. Somehow got a little flick on it and got the cue ball to go right into the mix of things. Into the yellow pocket here. So ball in hand, but ultimately an opportunity here for Guodong. And as much as I say, really like Yize, but I do want a bit of a challenge there from Guodong because it's been fun for the first round, you know, getting all of those 6-2 matches, but I think it's about time that we get super competitive and super close for those quarterfinal, maybe a semi-final, and then hopefully have a decider in the final as well. Something that we haven't seen in a while for the Triple Crown event. Of course, Xiao being very comfortable in his win over Mark Williams. Mark Selby not so much against Watchalong, but still wasn't quite a decider. And Sean Murphy win over Karen Wilson was 10-7. And you have to go back to a couple of years ago. But once again, it's a very important shot there for Guodong because that's going to be a mental block for him, surely, out of the way. At least one of those. Because the brown that he missed in the second frame into the left middle, he's able to take on right now. And only has 33 points in between himself and his opponent. It's going to be 26 when the black disappears. And he's got 3 more reds in easy access to try and make his way through. One of them slightly compromised by the pink, but surely not sort of too close enough, I should say. For him to try and make impact on it. Maybe even right now, if he's got a minor angle on the cue ball to try and maybe face the shot off into the pink. And with the cue ball being stunned with, with the backspin, should be able to try and make that. And just having a look once again. So clearly feels like he doesn't want to take any unnecessary risks, but he's leaving himself under a little bit of pressure here because As I say, he's got a very difficult red to try and make his way out on the side cushion, and he doesn't need to leave this red next to the pink till last, because now compromise his chances of clearing the previous problem, and just add up another opportunity for him to try and mess the position up. Of course, ever since he's managed to take 2 reds and 2 colours, he was able to go past the previous highest break of his match for himself of just 9 points scored in the opening frame. He's able to take it to 22 points right now, and he has indeed committed to leaving those 2 difficult reds to be taken till last. So you can talk about the mindset of clearing all of those loose reds, but I don't actually think it's going to make a massive difference. It's going to be all about Xiao Guodong trying to make his way through the remaining 2 reds, or he's going to be out of the game completely. And, well, I mean, yeah, that probably has to be down to luck there, because he's done everything right in terms of the position on the cue ball, trying to be on top of the black, and the gap for the cue ball to squeeze past the red and onto the side cushion was probably about 120% of the cue ball, and still the cue ball manages to go, well, close enough to the side cushion to avoid any contact on the red, which means that he's going to have to try and do it the long way in terms of going for a safety shot. Surely I can't see him going for this red to be taken along the side cushion, and he doesn't see that anyway. Gone for a cross double, but was never really making the pocket, and surely that wasn't the plan in the first place. Decent cue ball control, and well, at least we're going to have a frame on our hands. Slightly out of position with the scoreline, but we'll fix that. So 10 points advantage for Yize, and 43 at the table as it stands. Average break. Yeah, you can see once again it's a massive drop off there. For last 16, it was the average break of 53 points for Xiao Guodong. Of course, that has to be calculated when you make a couple of reds and color combinations. And right now, for the quarterfinal in the opening, pretty much 3 frames so far, it's going to be just 15 points scored there for Xiao Guodong. He's had, I think, 3 breaks, more than a single point, of 29 points, 7 and 9 points out there. So something that you wouldn't see for a professional, especially on the quarterfinal of the master stage. But the previous shots seems to be having some sort of positive effect there on Xiao Guodong, and he's able to go for a long shot. Now, is he able to make it? He needs this one to go in, otherwise he'll be in trouble. And what did I say? Otherwise he'll be in trouble, and he will be in trouble right now, because this red is hottable into the green pocket, and well, it was down to a couple of shots there for Xiao Guodong to try and make his way back into this match. But, I mean, if Yize is able to go for this red into the middle, that's going to be frame over, surely. I mean, he's having a good look at this one. I mean, if that's the case, I've got no clue why Xiao Guodong hasn't gone for it previously. And, I mean, I may be missing something, but I think we have seen another amateur mistake there from Xiao Guodong. He doesn't really like to give it away there, but I think he can't believe it inside of him, because I'm sure in the break of 29 points, he had a chance or two to try and take that red into the middle. And he refused it, clearly feeling like the pink is going to be in the way. And he needed about a couple of seconds there for Yize to be aware of that, and he was able to go for that red into the middle. Otherwise, I have to say, a bit of a weird shot that he's played right now. And getting himself, well, getting the cue ball to be past the red massively here, and wasn't able to play into the right middle, so I have to try and take it into the green pocket instead. And yeah, as I say, it just seems to love a challenge there, makes his life slightly more difficult than he needs to, and then still he's able to recover in style, and just a couple of shots in between himself and another 3-0 lead at the Masters. That's certainly the way to try and get your debut underway. You know, as he gets the brown in, so 23 points advantage, 27 at the table. Xiao Guodong doesn't show a lot of emotion, but I don't think he's going to show a lot of chances to be coming to the semi-final appearance. And, I mean, if Yize is going to be in the semi-final of the Masters, I mean, you have to say that shouts off him being the highest ranking player from China. It's not going to be so bad of a take right now, especially from where he was a couple of seasons back. Nobody knew the name. A lot of players, a lot of people, I should say, me included, saying that he's going to be way too inconsistent for him to be taking right to the very top, just losing way too many of those easy matches there. And, well, what a turnaround and what a step up in the game. This frame is over, and you have to say, the match is very close to being over because Sean Murphy wasn't able to recover from being 3-0 down. And I certainly can't see Xiao Guodong recovering if he's going to be playing anywhere near the game that we've seen from him so far. And, well, not quite the break of the match so far, but still it's the break of 33 points, which will be better than anything that Xiao Guodong has managed so far. And as Xiao goes for a bathroom break, he's very close to being out of the quarterfinal already after only 3 of those frames being played. Yize is on fire and marching on towards another confident win. And another top-seeded player that he's managed to take out. You know, he has a very impressive CV there of taking the top-rated players this season. Because if you think about the International Championship, he's taking out Chomp, he's taking out Higgins, he's taking out Xiao, he's taking out Barry Hawkins. I mean, he's going to take out, well, he's taking out Sean Murphy. And if he takes the world number 2, I think it is, no, the world number 3 from China, it's going to be a very impressive thing for him indeed. And so far, the head-to-head is going to be 2-1 to Xiao Guodong, with all of the matches being first to 6 frames or more. One of them was in the Tour Championship, and I think it was one more Scottish Open semi-final. Can't really remember what the third match was, but yeah, so those matches seems to go 6-4, 6-5 and 10-8, I think, and this one seems to be slightly out of the ordinary for now, and it just sees Yize marching on towards a very confident performance, certainly in the first mini session. Now Xiao Guodong needs desperately this 4th frame, otherwise he's going to be 4-0 down. And despite Yize being able to come back from this sort of scoreline, we're yet to see someone to do it against him. And Xiao Guodong certainly needs the bathroom break. He was better in the 3rd frame. We've finally seen a break of 20 plus for him, but it's still nowhere near high enough for it to be. If you want to challenge someone like Yize that has been playing some brilliant snooker, and if you take out a couple of those mistakes after the game, it could be certainly one of the favourites there. Not on paper, but from the way that he's played the game so far, he's going to be a real threat for this crown. If he's able to find 3 more frames against Xiao Guodong, he's certainly going to be in the semi-final and entering the last 4. Something that either one of the top-seeded players will be able to do. Of course, we had already Sean Murphy, the top-rated seed, out of the game, knocked out by Yize himself, and then we're going to have Karen Wilson or Neil Robinson to be knocked out by each other, to be faced off against Yize. But whoever does that certainly will have a very difficult job on their hands if Yize is able to maintain the performance. Certainly not of the break-off shots though, because once again has seen another brilliant one of those from Xiao Guodong in the 3rd frame. And once again, same as Chomp, he wasn't able to do anything with it. And just has to go for a safety shot though, because even though one of those reds was pushed by Yize onto the top part of the table, the green was in the way of the cue ball, and he managed to get away with that one. Sean Murphy said Yize will be world champion one day. Well, yeah, I think that's probably the obvious thing to say, because listen, he said that about Xiao a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden, he finds himself in a very difficult form. Very similar style there, but I think about Xiao and a couple of his interviews that we've seen, as once again, I mean, that is just incredible. You take one eye off Yize, and he manages to go for an incredible shot into the middle, and Xiao Guodong clearly thought he played a good safety shot, and in the end, he's going to find himself sitting in his chair for significant time off the table appearance once again, and Yize is back on the charge. Wow, I mean, could we see the first whitewash here? Because it's not even the way that Xiao Guodong is playing. He's playing some decent stuff there. He's making mistakes, but it's not even down to those mistakes. It's just the ability of Yize to try and take a 5% opportunity and try and take it into a 70% of trying to actually get him the frame over the opposition. And once again, he's done it on the 3 of the previous occasions. Every single time he needs a 2nd appearance, though. So it's going to be, well, not going to say a positive Xiao Guodong now, because unless he's going to find a couple of frames on the bounce. He's not going to have any positives at all talking about the match, whether it's going to be today, tomorrow, or 10 years from this moment in time. Yeah, 4-0 is going to be an advantage that surely you're not able to try and get back on someone playing so well. And also yourself just doesn't seem to be performing at the top part of his game. Plays the back to be taken into the left corner. So 22 points advantage now for Wu. As it still doesn't have too many of those Brits to try and make his way through. But he should be good enough in terms of if he gets this red in, gets himself on the black, position slightly underneath it, go into the main bunch of reds with the cue ball, and you should put enough of distance in between those reds apart from each other. And that way have at least a couple of those to be lined up into the... I think the middle pocket is going to be the prime opportunity, but you're always going to have those corner pockets as well there. Line up the base versus the X Factor. Well, seems to be only the Dragon. It's a bit of a copy-paste from Ding Zhuoi's nickname, but I mean, you can't really say he hasn't been flying. So just takes a step backwards though, and decides to play for one more loose red. Very confused and concerned about the way that the cue ball has gone. Clearly didn't judge the pace too well, but also clearly just did well enough for him to be lined up for this red to be taken into the left middle. So 31 points advantage on the top part of the blue once again. So I think that's going to be another positive thing that we haven't actually seen from someone like Ding Zhuoi, even Xiao Xington to the extent, on the majority of their respective careers. Of course, very different to compare, but when you look at Xiao Xington and Ding Zhuoi, you always seem to realize that both of the players will try and go into the bunch as soon as possible, and that way sometimes you may not get 6 or 7 points from 1 or 2 loose reds that you could have played for before. And, you know, you're always going to have this point that, you know, if I leave that loose red there, I've got more of a chance on landing on that red. But you could have played it in before the previous shot anyway. So it's going to be another positive there for the game of Yize, taking all of the loose reds out of the game. So the blue will take him a 42 points advantage. And now to cushion the cue ball to go into those reds. And, well, didn't really land on any of them. I think the contact was way too much of a brush of the bunch from underneath. And I think he just needed more of an angle on the blue to be lined up with. But he's got a long shot, and so far, that's all he's needed for an invitation. He had a 42 points of a break in the previous frame. Long pot success, 86% there with all the long shots that he's taken. This has to be an incredible stat. And he's just gone even higher than that, because I think it's going to be around 88%. And there's the confirmation of that. And Yize is, well, set on fire. He's in the form of his life, certainly. That just has the feeling of winning those 6 frames against Chomp on the bounce. Such a shame he wasn't able to start the match with back-to-back centuries. But apart from that, he's been absolutely flawless. Just needs one more shot to make changes to the position. Has he taken the blue into the corner, though? Into the middle, I should say. He has. Thought he was going to wobble in the jaws, but in the end he was quite comfortable. Once again, the break of 48 points. And the shot into the middle that he's got to try and get him past on the blue. So despite that, as I say, I think one area of improvement that you have to be talking based on the stats that we've seen, and also the 2 shots that he's played off the blue, trying to go and trying to send the cue ball into the main bunch of reds. He wasn't quite able to do so and get himself a perfect outcome on any one of those occasions, as he now has a look to see if he's going to be able to go for the split off the back once again there from the blue. Technically can try and go for just playing the positional shot on that red. Lowest of the entire bunch of those reds. Even lower than the pink. 14 balls potted and 99 there. He's about to make it 100 of the match in the opening 3 frames and a half. He's played it straight into the pink. And, well, I don't actually know if he's landed on the red. He seems to have started walking very confidently towards his next shot on the cue ball. But as he sort of stopped halfway there, he had a look and seems to continue the march on. But I actually don't think that he can try and go for this red to be taken into the right corner. I think he has to play another safety shot. Well, I say another. It wasn't really the one that he had to play in the first, second or third frames, because the chance that Xiao Guodong got was a chance based off a very fortunate fluke of the cue ball into the yellow pocket. And now he's got 54 points advantage, 83 remaining at the table. And, well, I mean, I don't know how, and I don't really understand what he's thinking about. Maybe he's just trying to make sure that he's not going to be able to slow the game down too much. And just, yeah, get that cue ball as close to the red as possible. But, of course, that gives a chance here to Xiao to try and battle it out, slow the game down, and maybe just put some pressure on the referee to force a re-rack. Let's see if that's going to be the case, though. Xiao clearly feels like it wasn't possible, and there's your answer straight away. No tactics like that. Just send the cue ball off the right and the left side cushion and land it perfectly on the ball cushion as well. So that's a good shot there. And so far you have to certainly count those from Xiao Guodong's making. Another long shot left though. As I say, he's done about as much as he could have on the cue ball's point of view. Yize clearly had that in mind when he was playing the previous shot there, leaving Xiao Guodong with a very limited area in terms of the way that he could have played the cue ball onto the top part of the table without leaving that red available to his opponent. Once again, so this time around it is going to be a long shot refused. So that 88% of long pot success is going to be with Yize for the time being. Yes, he has a look to see if he's going to try and send one of those reds towards the right corner. Yeah, I mean, Yize was always going to be aware of the red that he was leaving along the black ball cushion, but it's such a tricky shot there. It might look easy to the naked eye, but it's away from the cushion. It's very close on the cue ball, which makes the positional shot on the black impossible. The cue ball is so close to the side cushion as well. And even if all of these aspects weren't in the way of Xiao Guodong, he wasn't really playing too well for him to be taking such shot on. But, I mean, he's taking this red on. Whether he's going to be just a safety shot that he's trying to play, he was. And he's played a horror safety shot, and that's going to be surely the last shot that he's played in this frame, and might be the last shot that he's played as a competitor for Yize for the semi-final spot, because as I say, 3-0 was bad enough, but 4-0 is just going to be embarrassing at this stage, especially if you compare the points totals scored in the opening 4 frames or so. And, well, once again, just the ability of Yize to try and get himself onto those reds. Having a look to see if he's going to be able to hold the cue ball off the side cushion and back for a couple of those off the pink. 75 points still at the table here. And he's ahead by 61, so he needs one more red and pink combination. That's not going to do it if he goes for blue though. So the black certainly will. He's about to go 69 points clear with 67 at the table. And well, it's not quite going to be another century break, but that's probably going to be the only thing that he could have improved on, making more than a single century in the opening 4 frames. And, well, it's very disappointing when you make your debut at the Masters. You play so well at the opening rounds, and then you just meet someone playing so much better than you, especially when it comes from a friend. You know, there's always going to be great respect in between the players, but also there's going to be just that mind of a little personal thing where you want to be better than your friend. You want to just try and perform the best level of your game, and sometimes, you know, it's a bit of a contrast of a performance. You've got Xiao Guodong playing one of his worst snooker of the tournament world of the season, and on the other part of the table you've got Yize playing the snooker of his life here. 95% of pot success with all the mistakes that he's made of a couple of those long shots of the blacks. They have to say in the opening 2 frames. Long pot success, 88%, incredibly. I mean, as I say, those stats are going to be not really doing any justice there to Yize, because the way that he's managed to take those 4 opening frames away from Xiao Guodong has been nothing short of incredible. And just once again, it's such an effortless shot there, getting one of those reds out of the way there. It's an 82-point advantage. Average break there for Yize. I think that's going to be based off, once again, when you make more than 3 pots, 50 points. So that's going to be with, of course, 28 that he's made right now. He had a century of 112 points. He had the break of 93 and 42 in the previous couple of frames. And despite it not being able to make a century break, he still try and make a break of 70 plus points here. as he rolls the red into the right corner. Gets himself positioned for this black to be taken. And once again has got the way for the cue ball to bounce away from the black ball cushion. Get himself lined up for that red to be taken into the left corner. And once again, 97 points advantage. So, yeah, the points tally of Xiao Guodong, I think he was 30 in the previous frame, which is somewhat respected. But apart from that, he was 9, he was 7, and now it is going to be 0 for him going into the intermission break. And, of course, sometimes that can do even more damage to you when you haven't had any of those pots that you could have taken on, but also just see your opponent playing so well, potting pretty much everything that he attempts to. And now Yize just going for this yellow to be taken into its own pocket. Table time, 23% of Xiao Guodong and 77% of Yize. As I say, you don't really understand where those 23% came from, apart from the early safety battles. But even those have been dominated by Yize, and just able to either force his opponent into an error, or certainly make the most out of the mistake that comes from the initiative of the opponent anyway. Now that I think leaving the cue ball with a bit of distance on the blue on purpose, just to, maybe rub the salt in the wound there for Xiao Guodong, or maybe just to miss the blue like that, trying to go for a little tester session, and that's what this match turned into. 4-0 advantage now going into the intermission for Yize, and he certainly seems to be the man on fire. Xiao Guodong will be looking to try and hold on to, playing as many of those frames as possible, and for now, it doesn't seem too good for him to try and make it into the semi-final of the Masters appearance. We'll see you back in 15 minutes, and hopefully we'll see Xiao Guodong back as well, because for the first mini session, it was all about Yize and his pure domination of this All-China quarterfinal number 3. See you all in 15 minutes, and hopefully we'll come back for Xiao Guodong of some sort. He will be here with us.
I see the light inside you, brighter than the skies. Hold on, just let us escape and fly away tonight. We have the world in our sight, and I know together we'll be alright. Can you see forever we will go? We are forever learning, one step at a time. As long as the world is turning,
that we were traveling the mountains just to find the loudest tears. We sat down by the fire, knowing we could aim higher, but we didn't know that yet. So if you want something to hold on to, gotta find it first. But here I am, 'cause I've been laying under palm trees, waiting for the summer, knowing there's nowhere to go. 'Cause I am happy on this island, wanna be my farmland. I don't ever want to leave, I'm in a tropic club. I remember the ocean moon, memories die out too hard. That we were traveling the mountains just to find the loudest tears. We sat down by the fire, knowing we could aim higher, but we didn't know that yet. So if you want something to hold on to, gotta find it first. But here I am, 'cause I've been laying under palm trees, waiting for the summer, knowing there's nowhere to go. 'Cause I am happy on this island, wanna be my farmland. I don't ever want to leave, I'm in a tropic club. I'm in a tropic club.
Una, dos, tres, hey! Una, dos, tres, hey!
Right then, and back to the action we go. So the intermission is over, and let's hope that this quarterfinal will not be over for a while, because, well, on the previous 4 frames, that certainly seemed like it was going to go that way. And could we be looking at the first potential major whitewash of the season? I haven't really seen too many of those, especially when it comes to, well, when you talk about the certainly the Triple Crown events, but also when you talk about just the major semi-final appearances. We have seen some convincing performances, but I don't really think that we have seen something like a 6-1 or a 6-0, which still could be on the cards. But of course, you can witness another one of those 8 frames and a 6-2 win for Yize. It's not going to be possible for Xiao point of view, as now he has a decent break off, but once again just leaves that red available into the right corner to be taken. And so far, as the stat will tell you, 88% of those have been taken. Not this one though. Is he going to fluke it? No, he's not. So Xiao is going to get himself at least a chance here to get this quarterfinal going. And I think the crowd certainly are going to be involved on his party right now. Last pot time, 19 minutes, so not too long before the intermission has actually started. But also right now, he has to make sure every single time the cue ball is going to be aimed at a red or a colour, he's going to have to make sure it ends up in the pocket. Apart from, of course, him playing those starter safety shots, he needs to be trying to build some pressure on his opponent. And by doing that, he needs to try and get his rhythm started here in this quarterfinal. All of that has to try and come into perfect place there before you can try and think about challenging Yize. But I still do have a feeling that, you know, unless it is going to be a major breakthrough in the performance point of view, it's still going to be very much Yize's quarterfinal to lose, especially when he's got that 4-frame advantage to try and come with it. For now, Guodong is going to have a chance to try and take this black into the right corner. Seems to have done a bit of damage to the hand, but nothing too significant. And 16-point advantage, as I say, so 2 reds and 2 blacks combinations. He's going to be able to get 3 more of those. He tries to take the red closer to the blue line, but just about being on top part of it. He's going to have the angle to try and send the cue ball down the table. And back for the black it goes. Doesn't want to be straight on this one though, because he wants to use the cue ball, bounce it away off the side in the black ball cushion to try and finish up on the right hand side of one of those reds to try and take them into the opposite side of the corner. And in the end, he was just about able to hold the cue ball enough there to not use the side cushion at all. So just bounce it away off the black ball cushion, try and hold it. Sometimes those shots can be slightly riskier there for you, because If you get too close to the red, you might try and cannon it on his way back, and that way it's not going to go according to the plan. Now then, 25 points advantage, and you can try and take another black here with Xiao Guodong. Got himself a couple of more reds to try and work with. It's not going to be an easy black though. He tries to go for it without needing the extension. Very similar to the couple of those blacks missed by Xiao in his match against Karen Wilson. And you can see that straight away he knew the black was in, but he also knew that he was going to run himself out of those reds. And well, congratulations. It's the highest break of the match, but it still doesn't seem like the one that will get him anywhere near taking a frame away of Yize. So taking those 4 reds and 4 blacks still leaves 115 points on the table, which of course is going to be against Xiao Guodong because it just leaves an extra couple of those opportunities for Yize to try and still have more than enough points on the table to try and challenge Xiao Guodong to try and, well, continue that perfect record against him so far in this Masters quarterfinal. Because remember, we are going to have the likes of World Open and German Masters try and follow after we finish off with the Masters of the Triple Crown and get a couple of more groups to be settled for the Championship League. So we already know the couple of winners, and then it's all going to be formed into the final group of 7 players and the final playoffs to follow as well. Still do have a bit of a hope that we are going to see Ronnie O'Sullivan trying to participate in the German Masters, as he did say in his post-match interview at the UK Championship, the last time that we've seen him at the tour. And another great shot there by Yize, that's certainly the way. Try and put the pressure on his opponent. 58% so far of the safety success from Xiao Guodong, and 90% of those from Yize's point of view. And I think we have just seen a perfect snooker escape, if there ever has been one, because that's the way to do it. And if he's going to have one shot, that he's going to sort of revive his hopes of trying to steal this quarterfinal away. That's certainly going to be one of them. Perfect line of the cue ball. The littlest of touches on the left-hand side of that red, and just hammering the cue ball to the top part of the table, and finishing up perfectly with a bounce in behind the brown. And all of a sudden, you know, he has got the right-hand side of the bunch to try and work with, but that leaves him needing to send the cue ball into those reds with 2 cushions at least. That's what he's tried. And has to make sure he's not going to be on the lower part of it though. And I think he's played the shot perfectly. He has, once again there. You have to say at this stage, Xiao Guodong has to be hoping for those mistakes, because him playing well would have probably done the job at 2-0 or 1-0 of a deficit. Certainly not going to work out when you're 4 frames down and you need a drop-off to be seen in the performance of your opponent. Something that we're very far away there from what we've seen in the opening 4 frames and a bit from Yize's point of view, because, as I say, you know, he was super close to getting that red into the right corner at the start of the 5th frame. Surely would have been the nail in the coffin if there's a need for one in terms of the chances there for Xiao Guodong, if Yize was the player to try and get the second mini session on the way in the same way that he's managed to dominate the first one. Yeah, and he was. He's very good friend. I'm not sure if that will be the case today in the evening, but Xiao Guodong just seems to be very much respectful when it comes to him either winning or losing there. So I don't think there's going to be anything in the personal way of those 2 great players. But I think he's not really going to be the, well, not the first player to actually congratulate him, of course, but probably still feeling slightly down at the end of the day. But I still think that if he is to look back on the way that he's managed to achieve and what he's managed to achieve so far this season, he has to be very proud of everything he's done, even though we haven't really seen a lot of him getting to the business end of the tournaments ever since that brilliant One Open performance, beating the likes of, you know, Mark Williams and Gary Wilson along the way, for him to be the eventual winner for the 2nd time in 2 seasons. So doing that back-to-back in 2024 and 2025. Still, so far, the only 2 ranking events that he's managed to take there, both of them coming at the same place, has to be special. And I think we are getting a bit to the frame stall here from the two players. Of course, that will be very much to the advantage and to the delight of Yize. Not that he needs another help in terms of those points. Now we are going to have a phone to go off, which probably won't help, but Yize clearly doesn't seem to be distracted by it at all. Seems to be very much keen to go for it. And still plays a really nice shot there, much to the acknowledgement of the crowd. Trying to put... Very confused. Is this the quarters? It is, Ratchet Saint. It is the last 8. Nearly said the last 16. It is the last 8, so it's the quarterfinals, and it is for the place in the last 4. And it is going to be against either Karen Wilson or Neil Robertson as we get to the business end of the Masters here. We already know the first semi-final of John Higgins and Judd Trump. Now looking to see which one of the players from China is going to complete the 3 out of 3 nations so far featuring in the semi-finals of the Masters. Because we could see 2 men from England, or is it going to be 4 out of 4 there? And Team Australia joining the chat. Neil Robertson will be looking to try and finally make his way after a ranking event final ever since that win over Ronnie O'Sullivan at the Saudi Arabia Masters. Once again, it's not a great shot there from Xiao Guodong, but this time around he does get away with it slightly and forces Yize to try and go the long way round if he is to try and get that red. So close, but yet so far away from the left corner. But what a shot that he's played once again there. I mean, don't let that shot confuse you. Like, it was super easy, especially to try and hammer the cue ball so far up the table on the bounce away after potting that red and getting himself perfectly lined up on the green. May have been a bit of luck involved because of how perfectly he played the shot, but still, you have to give him a round of applause for that one. So good on 30, maybe got away with one. And in the end, that wasn't quite the case. And once again, we've seen the break of 29 points being made, and that hasn't stopped Yize from taking the frame number 3. Let's see if that will be the case in frame number 5 too. Because I still think if you were to put your finger on the score sheet right now, you have to say it's 6-0 or nothing there for Yize in terms of the way that he's managed to perform so far. And he's only 28 points down, with still 107 or so at the table for him to try and make his way through. And as much as I think winning one of those frames will mean a lot to Xiao Guodong, I also don't think it will distract and sort of dismantle the character of Yize, and you'll be able to pick out his way and just make it a more respective scoreline for Xiao Guodong's point of view. And 30 plus breaks, 6 of them. Total points 417. Highest break as we see 112. Average break 51.3, and a 1 century being made. Could have been 2 in the opening 2 frames, but he was stopped on the break of 93 points after he somehow missed the blue into the left middle. And Rob Spencer just having a look to see if the black can try and get respotted onto his original position. Doesn't seem to be the case, but he's having a good look at this one. Or maybe he can. So let's see if Yize thought that one through, and he was expecting the black to be respotted because certainly going to be very, very close to the red. And, well, the camera can actually capture just how close it is. So I think Yize's got that one under control, and he's going to be able to try and go for this red to be taken into the left corner anyway. And that way, of course, he eliminates all the drama for the next time the black is going to be respotted, because there's not going to be a black, there's not going to be a red to try and share that spot with. 19 points is the difference once again. So in terms of the way that he can try and climb his way back into this frame, I think he has to try and take at least 2 of those reds onto the black ball cushion. Hopefully for himself, the 2 easier ones. And well, straight away he's going to go for the 3rd hardest one. And you can see probably from this angle suggesting that the 2nd one could not have been potted anyway. Before Yize has taken out red closer away from the black ball cushion out of the table, and he managed to do so. So that's one of them out of the way. And as I say, for the difference to be only, well, 4 points as he gets the black in. He's got so many of those reds to try and make his way through underneath the pink. Of course, all of them bunched up, otherwise he would have gone for them right here, right now. And just interestingly enough there, just looking to see what he's looking for. He's looking to some bit of maintenance on the tip. So not really something that you want to see, especially from his point of view. Hopefully it's nothing too significant there. Haven't seen too much of trouble with any miscue or something like that. And as I say, his Q power control and his positional play has been perfect. Referee just probably being like all the Yize fans at that time, just asking if anything is okay, and gets a little nod of the head just to confirm that. Once again, could be a little bit of a rhythm breaker sometimes when you take an extra minute in between those shots. And a nice tester of the red along the black ball cushion to be taken. It's going to be a nice answer to that. So 3 reds, which, certainly 2 of them have been taken away there from the black ball cushion. The third one is going to be the easiest of the 3. And probably slight concern has to be the fact of him trying to bounce the cue ball away there from the black ball cushion, try and get himself lined up for the collar to be taken into the right corner for good measure as well. And finally, once again, for the 5th time in those 5 frames, he's going to find himself ahead in the frame, being 32 points down with 115 at the table. Now finds himself 5 points clear with only 67 of those still being up for grabs. And it all comes down to just making that split on 4 of those reds, and he should be away nicely in terms of getting this match over and done with. And he's able to do so right now. It's another beautiful shot that he makes. Haven't seen too many of those when it comes to the pack split success. Certainly this one is going to go towards the positive part of the stat. And he's able to get himself lined up for a slightly difficult cut, though, into the right corner. Has to try and keep it together now. He's right at the finish line for this frame, certainly. And if there ever was any doubt for him to be taking this match away there from Xiao Guodong, certainly it's not going to be the case if he is to go 5-0 up. And after making that red nicely to the corner, it just seems to be the matter of time until we see one of the biggest wins of the season. Certainly when it comes to the semi-final stage or higher. The final of Mark Williams against Sean Murphy, Chris Wakelin against Chang Min-yu. They're all going to be a bit of a nothing matches, really. I know it was the final, but we haven't seen such domination this season so far when it comes to quarterfinal stage or anything further than that. I think one of the most confident wins was 6-2 of, once again, it's 6-2, the good old scoreline of Mark Williams against Zhang Anda, but that was in the quarterfinal. Wasn't going to be quite as impressive as this one. I think Joey Long against Jack Lisowski was quite comfortable as well. But then that was, as I say, the world number 30 against the eventual winner there of Jack, taking his maiden ranking event title at Belfast. So then it all comes down to this red to be taken. He's 33 points clear. So technically he needs one more colour after this one. And he's now ahead by 34 points, so that will bring him up to 35 points of an advantage, with 35 still being up for grabs there. But 32 points, Xiao Guodong was very unhappy with himself, running himself out of position after the shot on the black, and you can see why, because if there ever was one player that he certainly would know that Yize is capable of producing the break of 74 points, which puts all of his attempts of trying to get his highest break of the match to absolutely nothing. Now 42 points advantage as he goes for a double, tries to land it into the right middle. And just like everything today, he certainly would expect that red to go in. And, what that means is, after that decent break of 32 points, we still could see a response of a century break from Yize's point of view, as he gets the black in. Then a bit of maintenance on the cue ball, trying to guide it along the table diagonally across to the yellow pocket. And needs to get close to the total clearance here, so we'll need the pink for the century. Just needs the bounce of the cue ball to avoid the green, and he hasn't done so. So once again, we've seen that in the second frame. Now we've seen it in frame number 5. 112, 93, 84 points in counting. Is he going to be able to get this green into the middle? And not quite. So the breaks of 112, 93, 84, and 60 points, as I say. As Yize has a bit of a conversation there with the referee, just giving a bit of a concern there. Just asking for maybe some of the tools to try and do some cosmetic work on it, but whatever's wrong with that tip, it still seems to be getting absolutely everything out of it, and 5-0 of a dominant performance is certainly not a bad way to go about your opening quarterfinal appearance here at the Masters, and well, Xiao will be very disappointing, but I also have to say that it's one of those things where Sean Murphy said he's probably the worst match of the season that he's played, but I still think that even if you've played some of his best performances of the season, he still could well have been on the receiving end of things, as Yize was on fire on that Sunday at the opening round. That still seems to be the case here, as well, Xiao was sent there to pretty much the bathroom break, and I say sent because he had a conversation with the referee, maybe just Ross Spencer letting Xiao know that it's going to take a bit of time for that maintenance work on the Q-tip to be done. What a talent he is. Take about, well, certainly is, and I will be looking forward to him if he is to find that one more frame against Xiao, which seems to be a formality at this stage. I'll be very much looking forward to his performance against Karen Wilson or Neil Robertson, because he didn't have to play either one of them. And apart from taking the world #1, which it's not going to look too bad on your CV. I don't think he has played Mark Williams. Certainly hasn't played Ronnie O'Sullivan this season, and defeated John Higgins in the final. So the world #1, the world #6, and Sean Murphy, the world #7, getting all of that under his belt. I don't think he's played Mark Cullen either. Although I may be wrong about that one because I'm getting a weird feeling about it. So yeah, we're still yet to see a derby of. Just as I say that, I realise that we have seen a derby of Xiao against Yize, and that was the semi-final of the International Championship, and that was a very important and a very confident win as well there for Wu, because it looked like in the early parts of the match that Xiao was going to take control, but Yize was just able to hang in there, and in the end put up a very confident display, beating Xiao with a thin 9-5 or 9-6, being the last scoreline at the semi-final. So you can't say that he hasn't done it against the best players of the world. Well, and the argument that he hasn't really done it at the top tournaments, China International Championship is very difficult to win, especially with it being such a endurance tournament to some extent. All the matches are going to be played to first to 6 frames. You start with the last 64. You have to try and make your way up to the very top. Nobody gets a bye in the second or third rounds. Certainly wasn't the case with Yize either. But now, the argument that he hasn't done it at the Triple Crown event might be able to fall off as well, because despite him being really quiet at the UK Championship, that I think that was compromised slightly with the fact of him being handed a tough draw. I'm not going to say that I remember who he's gone off to, but I'll have a look right now. Because for whatever reason, I do have a feeling that it was the player from China that he lost to. No, that was Neil Robertson. Wow, so that's certainly a good player to be up against. I can't believe that I said that he hasn't played against Robertson this season, and yet here he is, losing out to the Aussie by 6 frames to 1. It's a bit weird that I don't remember that one, but anyway, so he has faced off against Neil Robertson, and doesn't seem to have done so against Karen Wilson because of Karen missing out on so many tournaments for different reasons, but as he was on fire against another player from China, Xiao, so then he's able to get his form back underway. And just all about to witness on which one of the players is it actually going to be trying to dictate the run of show. So we still wait for the players to come back onto the arena, so clearly just a bit of work having to be done there on the cue of Yize. And just as to say that, he's back, the cue is in his hand, and Xiao is going to be very much close to him, and that's the closest that he's been to him throughout the entire match. Unfortunately, that's about as close as he's going to get to the semi-final, standing next to the player that is certainly going to reach the semi-final if he is to win one of those 6 frames. And surely now, at 5-0, there's no coming back there from Xiao, and it's all about, well, certainly at the opening stage, trying to make the scoreline respective, which, especially as he comes into this match as the top-seeded player, has been far from there. And it's just the count of shots that you have to start at this point. Xiao Guodong try and make things happen really. Impressive indeed. Xiao is without reaction, unfortunately, but it is one of those sports as well that's, as much as you say it is you against the table, that very much is going to be the case when it's right at the start and when your opponent is not really playing well either. Because when your opponent is playing well and you're not playing great, that could be an absolute killer for you, because, you know, it can be very dangerous when you play well and the other player is playing well as well, because it just could be whoever's got the more skill, more technique and stuff like that. But today's been all about form, and Yize just about makes the red, which would have been by far the worst shot that he's played in the entire match there. I don't think Xiao Guodong has played, you know, shots which would have been called worse than that, because that red was pretty much in the pocket, and Yize somehow managed to use all of those jaws there to eventually find it reaching the pocket. But still, he's going to say that was a calculated risk, and that wasn't even close and worth mentioning on. And he certainly deserves it after having such a demolition job there. 82 points scored in 5 and a bit frames from Xiao Guodong, 503 of those. I mean, that is incredible. For 5 frames, for you to be scoring 500 points. I mean, if he makes a century, but I don't think it's going to be a record. Well, it might be, because if you have 6 frames and you're going to have something like 600 points, I'm not talking about the record in 11 sort of formatted matches where you're going to have up to 11 frames, but when it comes to purely when you play 6 frames, it could be a record there if he makes a century or so, which just makes it a really high value of a frame when it comes to break building skills. Now then gets himself lined up for this round to be taken into the left middle, and just looking to find the cue ball back down there. Xiao wouldn't be winning a major for some time, in my view, lacking mental strength. Sad, but probably have to agree with you on that one. I think we haven't seen a response. It's really easy to say, though, that we haven't seen a response since that semi-final appearance, but for him to make it that far at such a young age, I think he was 18 or something. By the way, another great shot there by Yize, getting the cue ball effortlessly down the table and lining himself up for the plant as he takes that one into the right corner, and back for the black it goes. And yeah, on Xiao, it's a bit sad, but unfortunately it's been, well, 2.5 years now, pretty much 3 years since that semi-final, and him leading 14-7, and you can say that the performance wasn't really there, but you also have to say that him just not reaching anywhere near that stage, whether it was a major of any of those ranking events, or just, you know, getting so far at the World Championship. I think he was at the quarterfinals, though. May have been, no, I think it was the quarterfinals against Ronnie this season, so that was a positive for him. But he still played horribly. Like, the fact that Ronnie was playing so average that he was, and Xiao was able to get only 9 frames away out of it. He could have easily won that quarterfinal. But I suppose it's just sometimes it can be pressure when you're playing someone like Ronnie, and also it was far from his best match as well in that case. But this is going to be one of the best performances of Yize's career. It hasn't been the longest one so far, but when it comes to the Triple Crown, whitewash is always going to be special, and it's not like he's done it in the qualifying rounds. He's done it at the quarterfinal of the Masters, and he's about 50 points away from doing that. This is fixed. That's boring comment though, because nah, you can leave it. You can leave it. He hasn't really said by who or what, but I mean, it's just boring to say that. He's had a brilliant performance there from Yize, and I mean, fixed of what Xiao Guodong hasn't had a competitive chance to try and get himself in this frame, and yet he's had about 5 of those where he's going to finish on 80 points tally, and yet his opponent is going to have around 550, likely by the end of the frame. And yeah, 34 points is going to be the advantage now of Yize's point of view, but he can be really proud of himself. And on Xiao Guodong's point of view, I think sometimes it can be a positive thing for you in the negative mindset that it wasn't like he lost this one 6-5 or 6-4. He was never winning this match, unfortunately. And in snooker, you have to settle that there are going to be matches like that. There's nothing you can do. You can try your best, and you always have to. But there's always going to be days where you just can't do anything with it. You're not playing well. Your opponent is playing brilliantly, like he has done, making very few of those errors, and majority of them coming in the, well, first and second frames anyway. And we've seen the break of 93 and 112 to be repeated. Xiao has dropped his game significantly. Well, I mean, he has, but once again, there's not a lot you can do about it. As I say, there's always going to be days. You have to go back to Ronnie O'Sullivan against Sean Murphy this season in the first round. I bet you didn't say that one was fixed because he was Ronnie, but you're always going to have those days, and Xiao Guodong has done really well to beat Mark Selby in the opening round. He's played super well, and yeah, there's absolutely no reason for him to be accused of any sort of drop of performance. And I think, if anything, he's done his best, really, because he's tried to change the mindset clearly in the third and fourth frames, trying to go defensive. That one didn't work because his safety play wasn't still as good as Yize's point of view, and he was trying to go attacking in the fourth and fifth frames, and that hasn't worked out either. And you can see another brilliant break. You can't understand just how brilliant that stat is. Average break of 55 points right now. Position of the set is 92%. But focus on 54.9 of an average break value. That is incredible because you get yourself a chance, and the number of positions, which was so difficult for Yize to try and make his way through, the first and second frames, I remember saying, especially in the second one, Xiao Guodong can be quite positive about the position that he's left there because, well, I see very little chance of Yize making his way through up to winning the frame. And once again, he's gone for a split of the pack, and he's trying to take all the power away from the cue ball, and he's just about going to be on this raid. So could have played the shot with slightly more pace, but can't judge the winner. And remaining 83 points there, 52 points from Yize's point of view, as he's now on 53. And yeah, so he's going to need, I think, 2 more reds to be taken out of the game, because that will get him on 69 points, as long as he plays those 2 reds with the black, with only 67 of those remaining at the table. Honestly, Xiao took on a long pot at 5 frames down, and no player will take that risk realistically in that position. This game don't. Nah, that's absolutely wrong. That's absolutely that. Tell me the player that he's going to try and battle it to the end when he's 5-0 down. That's exactly what you do at 5-0. You have to try and make things happen. Like, he's trying to be defensive in the second and third frames, and then, like, that didn't work out at all. He was trying to play the safety game, and he was actually winning some of those battles, but he was losing majority of them, and something doesn't feel right. Well, his game doesn't feel right because he's struggling, but that's just the natural point of the game. And if you think that Ronnie O'Sullivan doesn't have bad days like that, and once again, it's Ronnie O'Sullivan there, the best player of all time, then you're very, very wrong about this game. And it's just been one of those days which you have to say congratulations to Yize, because he's now 69 points clear with 59 points at the table. And unfortunately, as sad as it might sound, Xiao Guodong could do absolutely nothing about the performance like this. And he still can be proud of what he's done in the first round. And sometimes those matches can be not as painful as, you know, if you would have cost him those opening 2 frames mistakes, where he was missing that blue into the left middle. He could put that down to just being rusty. You know, it wasn't like his opponent missed an easy shot off the black in the previous shot. And then sometimes you've got a player being super smooth with his break building stuff. And that was Yize. You know, making the breaks of 112, 93, 84, and 75 and counting. I mean, you're really going to blame that on Xiao Guodong when you had 4 breaks of 70 plus and 5 breaks of 60 plus. I mean, that's incredible consistency that he's shown there on the break building game. And as I say, his safety game has gone up massively. I think it was 90% or something. And not something that any of us could expect in this match. This is not... Yeah, I mean, I think it would actually probably be slightly better there for Xiao Guodong, because as much as it's painful, it's not quite like it's the final whitewash. And it's always nice to get a frame in there or thereabouts, but there was never a real opportunity for Xiao to try and getting back onto their position to challenge him into the semi-final spot. And so let's see him perform in the next round. He has been helped. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. And we'll see. Certainly can agree on you that one. It will be very interesting to witness, because he had a good match against Michael Holt in the first round. And in the end, he was absolutely battered by Neil Robertson 6-1 in the last 16. He's going to be through to the last 4. As we just wait to surely just confirm another century break. And he had a break of 137 made in the opening round against Sean Murphy. He had a break of 112 making the first frame. And a perfect century sandwich. And that's not quite completed though, because he's going to miss the black. So once again, it's another 90 plus break. And you can see the smile on Xiao Guodong. He knows that it was always going to be the battle to lose for him, unfortunately. And that's an incredible win for Yize. And he acknowledges the crowd. They've certainly been on their feet supporting him. Well, for Yize, congratulations. For Xiao Guodong, commiserations. We'll see more of him in the upcoming matches, I'm sure, in the upcoming tournaments. Especially the ones in China. He always seems to be performing really well out there. But for Yize, he is going to be the winner. And now just looking to march on and try and beat one of the, well, top 3 seeds there. You've got Neil Robertson, Orca and Wilson waiting for him. But which one is it actually going to be there in the semi-final? Make sure to tune in 4 hours' time for the evening session, when we'll find out the complete setup for the last 4. It is Watchalong, John Higgins and Yize waiting for the last piece of the jigsaw to complete the semi-final draw. And which one is it going to be? Karen Wilson, or maybe the man from down under, Neil Robertson. Thank you very much for tuning in once again. It was a bit of a quick one, slightly more than 2 hours, but still appreciates the sticking with me. And we'll see you around for the quarterfinal, or if you feel don't like it, then maybe semi-final and the final are going to be there for you for the Masters to finish on a high. Speak to you soon and take care.